I'm back with another one. So this one took place in the first house that I started doing daycare in. The first night that we were there, we're unpacking our boxes and getting everything all situated. And it was nighttime. And Lexi comes back in my room and she says, "Mom," and here, okay, she's what, 4 years old, 5 years old now. She goes, "Mom, there's a lady hanging out on the back porch." And I was like, "Huh? What do you mean?" And I was thinking it was Rose. She was the landlord of the house. And I thought, well, what would she be doing here at night? And my sister had her wicker furniture out on the under covered porch. And I was imagining her sitting out there. So I went out there and looked, and I said, "There's nobody out here." And she's like, "I saw her. I saw a lady. She was hanging," get this, "she was hanging by a rope around her neck, swinging under the porch." And I was like, "What?" And so anyway, so then that night, when I was asleep, and I always sleep with the lamp on, I woke up hearing this creaking noise. And I was kind of like, "What's that?" And I opened my eyes, and right in front of my closet, there was a lady in white, and that's how Lexi described her. She was in a long white gown. She was in front of my closet, swinging back and forth with a noose around her neck. And I opened my eyes up, I saw that, and it disappeared. That scared me. And then there was another time, like shortly after that, I was coming out of the kitchen, and then there's the dining room. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little boy. He probably looked like he was 3 or 4. A little boy sitting down against the wall with his knees up, like he's crying, and his head down, on his knees. And I had turned and looked, but he was gone. And then one night, Lexi and she would come in and sleep with me. And I woke up again, my lamp is on, so I can see, when I open my eyes, I can see what's going on. And I was laying on my back, and then I heard this scratching noise. I opened my eyes, and right above me, this was like the scariest thing. Right above me was a skeleton, like the torso of a skeleton from the waist down, coming from the ceiling. And I saw that, and I sat up in bed, and I was like, I said this out loud, which I know is bad. I said, "What the H?" And then all of a sudden, it scrambled up into the ceiling, like just like climbed up into the ceiling, disappearing into the ceiling. And that scared the daylights out of me. And then there was another night, Lexi was sleeping with me, and her back was turned to the wall. So she was facing me, and I was laying on my side facing her. And I heard this noise. I opened my eyes, and behind her on the wall was a hand stretching, coming to reach, touch her with like the wall was stretching out, and it was a handprint reaching to touch her. And I said something like, "Oh, no, you don't." And, kind of pulled her to me and it sucked back into the wall. I mean, how am I dreaming this? If my lamp is on, I can see, it's light and I'm awake. I mean, yes, I'm coming out from sleeping, but my eyes are open, the light is on, and I'm seeing this. Well, then, once I'd started doing daycare, I really didn't have time. I didn't have time to mow. I mean, I had kids there from 5 in the morning until 9:30 at night, 7 days a week. So, my schedule was very tight. Well, anyway, I needed someone to mow the lawn. So one of the daycare kids, his older brother, offered to mow the lawn. And I was like, okay, I could pay you X amount, whatever, come on this day. And, so that worked out. Well, one day, it was probably about 3 times that he'd mowed. And one day when he was done, he came inside and he's like, did you know that you have people here, living here? I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, spirits. And I had not mentioned anything to Lexi, aside from what she saw herself that one night, but everything else, I didn't tell Lexi because I didn't want her to be scared. I didn't say anything to the daycare kids, nothing. I didn't say anything to anybody about what was going on. And he came inside and started telling me this. He goes, yeah, you've got a lady here. Okay. That explains the lady out on the porch that hung herself. You've got a couple of little kids. Okay, that explains the little boy that I saw. And you've got a joker, a man that likes to play pranks and scare you. That explains the hand in the wall. That explains the skeleton up on the ceiling. And I was just thinking, he doesn't know anything. And yet he's telling me this, that he's seen these spirits outside when he's doing the yard. And I didn't say anything to him about what I saw. I just took it, took what he told me as, okay, this is what's really, it's not in my imagination and I'm not dreaming this. This is really going on. And there's something else that I wanted to tell you that Lexi, okay, so the landlord lady, she was probably in her 70s and her name was Rose. Her son, well, he had a daughter named Alex who was 1 year older than Lexi. So, we'd been there for a couple years. And they had become good friends. And he, knowing that I did daycare, he knew that, oh, Alex could come over and, come over to my house. She'd have a safe place to be until he got home from work. Well, one day, Alex said, oh, can I run over to my house and grab something? Like she was going to bring something over to play with Lexi. And I said, sure. And Lexi goes, can I go too? And I'm like, yeah. And well, they had a friend of Dale's living there, and they turned the garage into his living area. But he wasn't home. Nobody was home. So the girls go over there, and the house is right smack dab next door to mine. And we're the only 2 houses on that. It's like a big, long gravel driveway that winds around to where our houses were. So our houses sit back in, on the property, but right next to each other. So the only houses there. So they went over there to get whatever it was she was going to get. And a little bit later, they come back just terrified, running, come running into the house. Lexi's like, Mom. And I was like, what? calm down. What? And she said, I think Alex said, we just saw something in my house. And I'm like, what do you mean you just saw something in your house? And she said, she started to tell me what happened. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. At first I thought, oh, they're just, pulling my leg, giving me some story. Well, I said, okay, I want, Alex, you stay out here, and I want to take Lexi back into her room or my room and question her. Ask her, what she saw, get the details, and then Alex next, and see if they match up. And they did. They were scared to death. Well, anyway, so they said, we were standing in the dining room, and their house was the exact same floor plan as mine. So they're standing in the dining room. They went through the sliding glass door to get into the house. They're standing in the dining room, and all of a sudden they heard the doorknob that leads to the door out to the garage where Mikey, his area is, heard the doorknob jiggling like someone trying to get in. And they were both like, who's that? Nobody's home. And then immediately after that, they heard pounding, loud, heavy pounding coming from the end of the hallway, which you can't see if you're standing where they were in the dining room. That would be off to the right. And they said, we started hugging each other, like huddling, like, what the heck is that? And they said that they heard the pounding getting closer down to where they were. And all of a sudden, there was a giant werewolf. That's how they described it. A giant werewolf standing up on its hind legs came, and it started growling at him, like breathing in and out and growling at him. And they screamed. They were screaming. And then Lexi said, I yelled at Mom out loud, Jesus, help us. Jesus, help us. And it immediately, it's like it cowered. She said it crouched down and jumped from the end of the hallway, or, that end where they were, over into the family room behind the couch in front of the front window. And their couch was pulled out from the wall of the window. And she goes, Mom, it jumped that far. I mean, that had to have been 12, 15 feet distance. And she said, Mom, it jumped from the hallway to the back of their couch to the front window, and then just jumped up into the ceiling. And this is daylight. This is in broad daylight. And I said, what'd you do after that? And she said, we got out, she goes, we were so scared we couldn't move when it was there. And she goes, after it got up through the ceiling, we just ran, got out of the house and ran over here. And I mean, they were terrified. But yeah, so that happened. Now, I can't remember if I had this dream before that happened or after that happened. But I had this nightmare. I will never forget it. And no, I have not ever seen any movies like this with werewolves or anything. Well, okay, so I'm asleep in my dream. And in my dream, I hear something outside my bedroom window. And I get up and I look through the blinds, and it's dark, dark out. The moon is bright, so I can see the sky. We had a great big tree in the backyard. And I noticed some, these little round balls in the sky floating around. And I'm like, what are those? Well, they were coming down. They were drifting down. And I noticed they were clear and I could see things inside of them. And as they got closer, down, I saw it looked like people standing in them, one per person. So there's probably about 4 of them, but they were far apart. And as they got closer, I was like, what the heck is that? And one landed in my backyard. And when it touched the grass, the bubble popped. It was a werewolf, like a dog man. And I was just staring at it like, oh my gosh, this thing had to have been like 9 feet tall, muscles. I could see through the hair, its skin, and muscles, and the legs. And I mean, I could see every single detail of this thing. And the head on this thing was huge, had teeth. And when the bubble popped, it was like looking around, and then it started sniffing the air. And I remembered that. I'm like, oh, this thing's on the hunt. And then in my mind, I thought, don't be afraid. I bet it can sense fear. And so in my dream, I got Lexi up out of bed, and I told, kind of put my hand, my finger up like, shh, let's be quiet. I didn't say what was going on. And I just said, let's go in your room. And so we went in there and hid in the closet. And then my dream ended. But I will never forget that. And I was terrified. But yeah, so those things happened. This was kind of weird. So one night, Lexi and I are watching a movie. And we had all the lights off. It may have been around Halloween, but we had all the lights off. And we're watching a movie. So the front window is behind us on our couch. And so I see a reflection of like a flashlight in our TV. And I was like, what's that? So I turn around and I saw this guy. And it looked like he was wearing overalls. And he was big and bulky looking with a flashlight. And I shut the TV off. And of course, I always had our doors locked. So I went and grabbed my cordless phone and told Lexi, let's get in the hallway. And she didn't know what's going on at this point. And I thought the hallway would probably be the safest place where they would not see us. We're not near any windows. And I called 911. And I said, yeah, there's somebody outside my house with a flashlight. Well, it turns out that was the cops. The cops had been called out to my place by Dale next door because I don't know what, somebody had come up there, did something, and ran over to my place to hide. I don't know I can't remember what it was. But the cops were there searching for him. And turns out they found him under my back porch, hiding, laying down in the ground under my back porch. And that was a scary thing. But I can't think of anything else right now of something weird that happened.